Hi, my name is Jasmine Chabelsi and this is Youth Choice. Today we have a special guest on School Days podcast, a very successful director and producer, Maude. So hi Matt.
Hey Jasmine.
I'm going to be asking you a few questions about your school days to start.
Okay, awesome.
So in 3 words, how would you describe Maude in school?
Oh man, that's the 2 words. At school, hang on, so is this about me at school or the school?
You at school.
Frustrated, angry, whatever the opposite of cool is. Yeah, I go with that.
Okay. And did you find anything particularly difficult while you were at school?
Yeah, so the school that I went to, I'm incredibly envious of you coming to this school, because the school that I went to, if you wanted to study an artistic subject, you studied art. That was the only artistic subject that you could study. There was people that did music, but for someone that can't play a musical instrument and can't draw at all, I just felt myself as this very frustrated person, because I felt like I was creative, but I had no means to be able to kind of show that creativity. And so I'd kind of just bring it out in other things. So I'd find the most violent sport that you could play and I would play it. And I was this kid that went through puberty so late. It was ridiculous. I missed every single puberty bus, and everyone else was adults, and I was still this child. But I joined my local rugby team because I just wanted to be violent and have an actual means to do it without getting arrested. And then my dad gave me a photo stills camera. It was a T70 Canon camera, and it was made in the 80s. But it was someone gave me the means to be creative. I had no idea that this thing that I could bring up to my eye could show other people how I saw the world. But as soon as that happened, it was I found focus. It was kind of crazy. And then I was really fortunate because there was a TV series being filmed at my school, and I'd finished my GCSEs, and there was this golden summer where the school didn't know whether we were going to come back or not. And I just worked on this TV series for 3 months, and that's what started my career in TV and film.
We've talked about what got you interested in film, but what would you say was your favourite movie genre back in the days? What films did you watch as a kid that you were
there's no part of this answer that's cool at all. It's really weird. My parents, I love them dearly, and they're super cultured people, right? They've got really good music taste and stuff. But it's weird. I feel when we were growing up, our household was one of those that was always listening to the radio, and there wasn't much music that we were listening to. We wandered through the house, and you'd just be hearing Radio 4 all the time. And then we had this VHS player, but we never had that many VHSs. And I feel we only had 5 VHSs growing up. VHS. Do you know what VHS is?
No.
Oh, yes. Okay. So before the internet, if we wanted to watch a film, you had to go to a store and rent a VHS, and it would be the film on tape that you get to watch, and then when you finished it, you'd have to stop and rewind it. You couldn't skip forward or just kind of get any point. You had to access any point. It was just this thing on tape. And it was really cruddy. The more times you played a tape, the crappier the quality got because the tape would kind of get and wear out. So the films that we had were Mrs. Doubtfire.
Okay.
You know, so for me, comedy was that kind of comedy. We would just watch stuff like that repeatedly, and then every once in a while we'd get a new one, Jurassic Park. But where I lived, we were quite a long way away from a cinema, and so going to a cinema for me was just going to church. It was just unreal. You get to sit in this space in silence and just completely lose yourself in someone else's worlds. So yeah, I kind of think more about cinema trips rather than I think about VHSs. So I remember going to watch The Matrix and just being completely blown away. But I don't know, I feel my interests in films, I'm sure a lot of people, is super diverse. I love zombie movies, I love rom-coms, I love action films. I don't know, I heard this the other day, that there's a difference between movies and films.
Yeah.
So movies are films that are created for audiences, and films are films that are made for audiences and other filmmakers. And I love films. You notice that you begin to kind of see techniques that filmmakers put into their films that still makes it really enjoyable, but it also makes you feel like really inspired. And like David Fincher's like an amazing example of that he can cross between these incredible different genres of films, but every single time you sit down to watch it, you're just kind of blown away. Stanley Kubrick's the same. Like, he would just take like completely different genres, research them completely, and then direct these masterpieces. Like, I can't believe like the guy that did The Shining is also the same guy that did 2001: Space Odyssey. Like, completely different films, but are masterpieces.
Who would you say you looked up to the most, like as growing up, and when you knew what you wanted to do, who did you look for, like, at as your inspiration?
That's a really good question. I'm really like blessed to have like two brothers that I'm like super close to, and that are like my best friends. And like my parents got divorced when I was like 12-year-old, so I spent a huge amount of time with them, and they both have been like amazing sources of inspiration. And like particularly at a time like you guys are kind of a bit luckier than us in being like a half generation younger, where it's like the toxic traditional stereotypes of what it is to be a man are like less prevalent now than they used to be. So being around like brothers that were emotionally aware and open and intelligent and communicative, like I'm really like indebted to them and to our parents to like cultivate that sort of stuff. Probably more to your question that you want answered though, presumably is about filmmaking. But yeah, like I remember watching the Royal Tenenbaums and just wanting to be Wes Anderson, because the way he saw the world, the way he was able to craft these characters, I was like, whatever that he's just done, I definitely want to do that. And it took me a long time to realise that I wasn't going to be Wes Anderson. Just don't have the brain, don't have the same kind of level of detail in terms of art direction. I loved Christopher Nolan growing up and still do. I think he has just this amazing ability to kind of capture scale in an incredibly intimate way, which I think is such a rare thing to do. Like Stanley Kubrick, for the reasons that I kind of spoke about previously. But I know this sounds like super lame and a bit wanky to say this, but like I'm inspired by every single filmmaker that finishes a film, because what it takes to put together that amount of people together into one space and create a vision collectively, it takes so much energy and so much so much time and hard work and guts. Like, it's just, I don't know, sometimes you feel like you're jumping out of a plane without a parachute, and that you're all building the parachute as you plummet towards the earth. So anybody that lands safely, I'm inspired by. That's a weird metaphor.